All right, so I'm here with Heather Farmer, Olympic lifting extraordinaire and also Southern gentlewoman, and a very nice person, not scary. So those of you who think she's scary, it's not true. She's awesome. But anyway, Heather's a really high-level Olympic lifter. We've been doing some stuff together. She has a competition coming up, and she's had some traumatic injuries that have forced her to kind of address some of her weaknesses. So why don't you talk about, Heather, like some of the technique issues that you've had in the past, just in general in terms of like your clean, your snatch, and what's limited you from optimizing your technique?
I guess like the main thing would be in the snatch, using my back to try to extend at the top of the snatch rather than being able to extend straight up, which causes a looping bar and a missed snatch, which is no good. So it's probably primary.
Right, and how we started working together actually was, because we were in the same facility. I saw Heather doing that, and I was like, do you have any issues like with your knee or your back? Just based on how she was kind of overextending in the snatch and not able to kind of maintain a more vertical sort of torso. And she was like, yeah, how did you know? And so it's one of those things where you can do the eyeball test and the gross movement test, but then you also have to kind of go inside and sort of evaluate why you're seeing what you're seeing. And in Heather's case, it wasn't so much of a cueing issue. Like, you could have the best coach in the world cue her to do what is perceived as better technique, but in this case, her hip joint was not allowing her to achieve full hip extension in the pull.
And just a note though, this when he said this, my coach at the time had been yelling at me every single day, stop pulling back in the snatch, stop pulling back in the snatch, finish straight. And I couldn't, but he kind of validated that. So
right, so it's one of those things where, like, if your joints can't get in the right positions to do whatever it is you're trying to do, you can cue and yell all you want. You're not going to get to the root of the problem. So we did some traditional orthopedic tests in the treatment room, and basically what we found was it kind of corroborated the eyeball test. Heather was missing some hip extension. So when I controlled for her back and would not allow her back to move, her femur could not extend to neutral in extension. So in Olympic lifting, you're doing a lot of hip hinging and that kind of thing, but there isn't a lot of sort of direct hamstring work, especially with regards to incorporating knee flexion with some of that hip extension. And even in Olympic lifting, you can cheat through a pull and not extend your hips fully. So we basically just went over some drills that would allow her or force her to extend her hip and really work on her hamstring and get her pelvis and her femur in a better position to succeed in the snatch. So one thing that we've had Heather doing, and a lot of Olympic lifters, we see the same trends, is the glute ham raise. It tends to be one of the more bastardized exercises, so we're going to go over how we teach it to kind of optimize that hip extension and hamstring activation. Okay, so the setup for the glute ham raise is really important. You want to almost make it like a Nordic hamstring curl. So sizing can be an issue with some of these devices. So for Heather, we actually put a pad or an ARX pad next to between the pad and her knees here to just prevent her knees from slipping loose. She feels nice and secure. And now how you want to cue it is you have her cross her arms. She's upright, so she's in hip extension, so squeeze that butt at the top, so reinforcing hip extension under load. And now we'll have her just go through the range of motion she can actually control without her back taking over. And this is, even for strong people, very difficult to get on a couple of inches. So her back wants to work, so we'll just do it right here and back up. There you go. So that's one way you can do a partial range of motion. The next way is to have a spotter help the person go down. So resist, 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 resist. I'm gonna help you. You can get out faster. There you go. And then on the way up, I'm gonna assist her, and I'm also controlling her spinal position so that she doesn't go into hyperextension on the way up. She's really digging with her heels and using her hamstrings. So thank you, Heather. So that's the technique. Key points: you want to start out in hip extension, maintain that the whole time, and then go through the range of motion that you can without the back kicking in. So you're basically getting pure hip extension and not lumbar. Because like I said, for a lot of Olympic lifters, there isn't enough of that hamstring stimulus to reinforce those positions. Unless your technique is really good, you're not driving those motor patterns in training without very directed accessory work like a glute ham raise.